We've got huge Maverick news, and this is some pretty big insider news. And the reason for that is I was actually talking to an engineer, and it's I'm not going to obviously name names or anything, but I was talking to an engineer who was with Ford, working for Ford, and we've all been waiting for all-wheel drive on the Ford Maverick in a powertrain option that is not the EcoBoost. Unfortunately, I really love the EcoBoost engine, and I think the EcoBoost engine is fantastic with its 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. It's a great engine. It's reliable. It's powerful. It's got that 8-speed. This motor is also used in the Lincoln Nautilus, a heavier vehicle. It's used in the Ford Escape as a top trim engine, and it's the standard engine on the Lincoln Corsair, and they do a great job. But there's going to be a new powertrain coming along if Ford's plans aren't delayed. And delays do happen. I thought I'd have the Ford Bronco order guide this evening. And, we just got out of a premiere with the Ford Bronco when we were visiting the lot and showing you all the various differences. Then we got back home. We also did the interior differences. So catch our 2024 videos on the Ford Bronco, the most two recent ones. We'll get to a Bronco talk after this huge Maverick news. But I was talking to an engineer at Ford, and from day one, from the very beginning, the planning for the Ford Maverick was that it would really accomplish two things. One of the major accomplishments of the vehicle was to be a very cost-effective entry level when it comes to price vehicle. Because Ford noticed going back years that trucks inevitably were coming up in price, were getting bigger, and they wanted a reasonable truck that would appeal to all sorts of people, but especially retired people. Now, if you look at the viewers on our channel, the majority are over the age of 50, and our biggest age group for viewers is actually the 60 to 70 range, because YouTube, we can follow in age categories by des tranches of 10 years, so 10-year age group. So it's the measurement is age groups by 10 years. And the biggest age group is 60 to 70. Next, of course, is the 50 to 60 and the 40 to 50. But above 50 and up, that's over 50% of our viewers. So a lot of people who are getting this vehicle are retired people that occasionally will need to, stuff the back. Remember, folks, you put that tailgate at 45 degrees and you've got a 4x8 or many 4x8s that will fit in there with a 350 pound rating. So this truck is extremely useful. It's a real utility vehicle. But from day one, we'll get to the second thing, and we're going to be talking about a whole new powertrain. But from day one, they wanted this vehicle to be affordable. And I know there have been price increases, and I'd love to see in the chat what people think about those price increases. But I can tell you that when we do the math on them, unless we calculate XLT plus hybrid, but most of the price increases have more or less followed inflation, which is not the case over at Stellantis. On the Rams, they've actually, while inflation has been 21% since 2019 to now, so inflation's been at 21%, their price increases have been 43%, folks. So this is why we need to talk about when is the best time of the year to buy a vehicle later on in this live, because prices have exploded. It's unacceptable. It's wild. But we need to use our money to kind of vote and control where prices go. Well, Ford, without wanting to be, needing to be controlled by buyers, just not buying, they wanted to offer something for buyers. And from day one, the goal was to have, of course, the hybrid. So not only is the vehicle cost effective when it comes to purchasing, so, almost half the price of an equally loaded F-150, but Ford didn't want it to just be cost effective with the price. They wanted it to be cost effective in regards to fuel economy. And Ford, They know what they're doing, and they know their customers. We've seen that with the 2024 Bronco changes compared to 21. They listen to customer feedback, and they've given us many of the things that we've asked for on the Bronco. And one of the big ones was a better sound system. They tried to give it to us, but they just couldn't get enough of those sound systems to the point that Lincoln models can come with a sub delete often enough these days. And even the tailgate is still automatic, but not with the foot. It's not foot activated. You just can't have it on the Aviator right now. You know, that's almost, you know, it's about 80 to 100,000 Canadian for a Lincoln Aviator, and they can't get the sensor for the foot sensor for the back tailgate to open up. So let's talk Maverick. Let's at least get to, before I drop the huge news, let's just get to the actual photos of that. So we've got the Maverick here. My sad face, of course, is, well, prices have gone up. But Ford is doing their best to fulfill that first criteria, which is to create an affordable truck that, you know, people in retirement age can actually get in and out of. Now, I can understand why people our age are buying it, less so than the 50 plus age group, because when you have kids, one of your main concerns with keeping the Maverick was bending down to put our future girl into those seats, our future daughter, well, daughter already, you know, so she's living in there. So we haven't decided.
She's there for sure.
She's there. We haven't officially decided on a name, but probably Kylie. But you're worried about hitting your head. I was worried about my back, because the one thing I cannot do is be bent with weight in my hands. So this is obviously very attractive to retired people, not as attractive to people who are going to be putting in 1, 2, or 3 kids. You know, Tim Bart's daughter, Sarah Davis, also was worried about, you know, the 3 kids in the back, space for 3 kids. Pretty difficult. Us, we're also worried about when the seat has to be turned so the face heads the back. But Ford has been doing their best to keep the price low on this, while certain companies like Stellantis for the Ram have increased price by 43%, inflation only at 21%. Now, if we do the math, the original math on the original pricing given out in 2021 to today, I calculated it on Marie's Hybrid XLT, and it was $5,580 price increase from the now 24 price to the 21 price. And of course, that's more because it's a hybrid. It wouldn't be quite as bad if it was an EcoBoost, because EcoBoost, they're not charging an extra $1,500 to help, well, contain some of the high demand for that. They just can't feed all that demand because of battery issues. But from day one, there was the goal to bring along the all-wheel drive hybrid. And which is, I'm really happy to kind of get this very much confirmed to me by an engineer that will remain very much without a name. But it was all part of the original planning. One, price. They wanted a reasonably sized truck that people can afford, whether they're young families or retired people. But we've seen that people in the 50 plus age group have really been unbelievably drawn to this vehicle, and I certainly can understand why. My parents love the Bronco Sport. It's all about that ease of getting in and out and the practicality. My parents did not want to wait a year for a Maverick, so they got the Bronco Sport yellow right off the showroom. Many of you have seen it. But from day one, the goal and the plan was to introduce an all-wheel drive hybrid. Why didn't they do it right away? Well, 2 obvious reasons, only one confirmed. My speculation from day one was that already batteries wouldn't be able to get enough batteries for the demand. And you remember I was saying back in summer of 2021, I said, hey, Marie's Escape and all the Escape battery versions, whether they're regular, traditional hybrid, or plug-in, are all horrifically delayed because of battery issues. There were 7 or 8 fires that occurred in Europe. No one was injured, but it put a huge delay. Ford just stopped bringing them to market. Their other option was to go the way of the Volt or the Bolt over at GM, sell a ton of them, and then have to rip them all out of customers' hands and take them right off the market because they just weren't safe. Or have them sit waiting for repairs for months and months and months at the dealership where someone's, you know, without a vehicle. So Ford went down the route of, we're not just going to make the quick buck and pass the problem on to the customer. We're going to do this right, just like they do with their recalls. You know, Tesla has very, very few recalls. It's not because Teslas have very, very few problems. All manufacturers have many problems. Ford does a lot of recalls because they want to ensure and pay out of their own pocket to make sure the customer has a good experience and a good vehicle. So I speculate it was all about demand. They wanted to kind of have a reasonable demand on the hybrid, and they end up having way more than expected. What was confirmed is that they had to, for whatever reason, they had to go with a different powertrain unit than is on the Escape. If you all recall many of my Maverick videos, but my original video that has almost hit 300,000 views was all about building price of a Ford Maverick, but I released and shared a lot of insider information, and part of that insider information, which became known later on, even a lot of Ford's training booklets for salespeople, and what they were giving out to the journalists were saying it was a CVT transmission. I was like, hey guys, it's an eCVT. Be very proud that it's a CVT. This goes back to when you're working with Toyota. It's very much like Toyota Prius eCVT. It's a planetary gear set. It's an unbelievable transmission. You need to sell on that point, because as a consumer and as a buyer, I can tell you, people in the know don't like CVTs and don't want to touch CVTs. It's not just Scotty Kilmer, Scotty Kilmer hates them. I think he's ready to go and raise up a rebellion or a militia against CVT transmissions, but he's kind of onto something. He's almost should raise a militia and force manufacturers to stop making CVTs. They're complete garbage, but they're unbelievably cost effective. They're profit generating machines. They help give you low numbers on the miles per gallon tests and ratings, but they suck. They're unreliable, they're noisy, they're unpleasant, and they're just horrible for reliability. You can't tow anything in any reliable sense. However, back to this very important powertrain discussion. What's going on with the powertrain is that Ford originally had the Ford Escape electric motor. I said how the Maverick had that motor was built in-house by Ford, the new electric motor, and that there were some changes. I went through all the various changes, and I can't remember all the technicalities of it, but essentially I think you're using less rare materials, and it ends up being lighter and more durable, so like a better torque rating. It can take more, withstand more. So electric engine was changed, and electric engine, transmission, all clumped together. But what was confirmed to me from the engineer is that caused it to be impossible to connect an all-wheel drive system to that hybrid unit. So between the motor, which was now built in-house and a little different, and that transmission, that together, the two would not support all-wheel drive. Just not possible. And the great news is that from day one, it was planned that for 2025, that they'd switch back to the Escapes system, the Ford Escape system. So maybe this is where I'm back to thinking, maybe my speculation, my educated speculation, going, and you know, for people who've been here on the show since day one, you all know what it means when I say educated speculation. I'm not naming names here, but it means I have really strong reason to believe, and a whole lot more goes behind that as well. But I'm already giving out a little more news than I really should be tonight. So in regards to the Maverick, wanting to treat the community, and we will get to a talk of whether, you know, you should wait, order a 2024, or buy used. So we'll cover all that right after this. But I think the big thing I want to say here is the original plan was 2025, and this was confirmed to me, engineer, 2025, to bring back the all-wheel drive hybrid system. And that'd be a traditional hybrid system. And how they're going to do it, the technicality behind it, is that they have to go back to the system that the Escape currently has. Now, my original speculation was that, of course, that the Escape system, that they didn't have enough of it, or there was a reliability issue, that it was a mixture of either not being able to get enough or not able to get good enough good enough actual setup that whether it's the battery, the electric engine, or the transmission, that between one of the three, that there, and I'll get to that in just a sec. Thank you so much. Between one of those three units, and I actually ended up speculating that it was a bit of both. It was trouble getting enough in quantity and quality. And with all the delays that we saw on those powertrains, we do see, and Ford much later on, a year later on, finally said that it was about quality and they couldn't get enough quality power units, powertrains with the battery. So we've got a huge thank you out here. M. Peugeot, thank you so much. 10 US, so about $300 Canadian.
Towards the higher resolution camera.
Thank you. Yes, because when we film off of our, I bought one of the most expensive and what's known as currently the best telephone, Samsung 23, the Pro or the Ultra, the highest one. I just told the store, give me the most expensive and best phone in regards to filming. The issue is I can only film at 720. It's either a mixture of being on these lives or a mixture of being on the self-facing camera, because we like to see each other. We like to see ourselves while we talk to you, because we can kind of control what's going back on this camera. Reminds me I need to switch
the chat too.
And we see the chat pop up. But thank you very much. We could definitely look at a better camera when we're filming outdoors, but I think we'll put that towards a better microphone. That's what we were talking about. And this evening, we don't know what happened with the internet. We actually just believe the whole entire house lost internet because all our phones lost internet as well. Because we've got about 5 units here that collect internet and it all went dead. So thank you so much. And actually we must have had someone else help us out too, because it said, oh, I guess the phone translated into Canadian saying $13.95. Yeah. So thank you very much. Now we've got a question that someone I'm thinking will have asked you before we get talking about whether it's better to buy a new Bronco, used Bronco, or throw in the order and wait. Someone definitely wanted to know this evening in the premiere. So if you haven't caught the Bronco premiere that we aired at 6:40 for those 2024 changes, physically showing you with our 2023 Bronco and also talking about all those changes that have occurred since 2021, which I have to give a huge thank you to M. Peugeot, who helped us clarify something. Because in my first video that I brought out about a week ago, I just mentioned that the hard tops, both hard and soft, were better since 2021. But M. Peugeot really specified really well, being that the detail-oriented individual that he is and often shares some pure gold with the community here, mentioned that his hard top, and he can write it in the comments because I'm not going to do this justice, but to paraphrase, he said his Bronco's hard top was both, it was 2 layers now, so better insulation, better sound deadening, because instead of being 1 layer thick, it's 2 layers thick, and that's when he's comparing his 23 Outer Banks versus his 21 order. And for the soft top, yeah, we noticed a lot of differences. We'll talk about that when we get to Bronco changes. But the huge Maverick news is that if Ford is on time and keeps to their schedule, we're getting a 2025 hybrid Maverick. I did talk with an engineer about this, so this is no longer educated speculation on my part. This is confirmed. If it's Ford can still go through with their original desired timeline of presenting it for 2025. And with the original Maverick, when I originally was talking about it back in summer, was it summer 2021? Yeah, summer 2021, I was saying, people were asking me, well, where's the all-wheel drive hybrid? Why isn't it there? I always said, well, it's on the Escape, so it's very doable, but it won't occur right now. Ford probably needs to, test the market, see how this is going to sell, see where the demand is, and need a bit of time to adjust. And mid-model refreshes are always about in case interest starts to go down, just like it has been on Jeep and Dodge products recently, and Chrysler. When interest goes down, it's good to have a mid-model refresh go up because of excitement in regards to changes and improvements. I've always said a powertrain unit would be excellent as a mid-model refresh if they need to bring back attention or buy, happy credits with people. Buy some, how do you call that? Some brownie points, I guess.
Yeah, we have a question here from PC3. I don't know if I say it correctly. Thank you so much for the tip. So the question is, what would be the best miles per gallon to be on the all-wheel drive 2025?
Yes, for the all-wheel drive 2025, I'll expect miles per gallon to come in very similar to what you're getting off the current 2023 Escape. Don't look at be careful, don't look at the plug-in miles per gallon, those estimated plug-in miles per gallon, which is around 2.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And Marie, if you can just jump on one of the extra internet phones here,
Yeah.
and look up for the Escape Hybrid. I find real life experience usually plays around 6 liters per 100 kilometers, because sometimes in the winter you're going to kick it up to 7.5, and then sometimes in the summer you might get it as low as 5.5. But if you currently have a front wheel drive hybrid Maverick, which you averaged out summer and winter at, what was it, 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers?
Yeah, it was around that most of the time.
Usually throwing in all-wheel drive is roughly 300 pounds of added mechanics. And for that extra 300 pounds, I would suspect that, your 5.5 liter average will probably kick it up to about 6. And I don't want to oversell this, because Marie has done 4.5 with her Maverick before. Actually, no, we did it with on a spring day when we were in between right before we headed off to Florida. Actually, I gave you the huge excitement of test driving a Maverick for a weekend, and then was like, okay, we're going to Florida, say bye to the Maverick. So do you want to announce that?
Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, so you did a conversion of 5.5 liters, 6 liters per 100. Oh, okay, so Marie did a great job. I don't give her enough credit here. I don't appreciate her as much as I should. So the EPA fuel economy of the Escape is actually 40 miles per gallon, and that would be 43 in the city and 37 on the highway. Remember, the all-wheel drive, the hybrid, I've got 2 dogs licking me, but I can still think and work. The Escape Hybrid, when it's less effective actually on the highway. So sorry, I've got my thoughts back here. Most gasoline, pretty much all gasoline powered vehicles are more fuel efficient on the highway, less fuel efficient in the city. And often I have trouble I have to repeat myself, because I know when people when I'm talking to people in, the real world face to face, I know when they're not following me or when they don't believe me, and I go, no, you need to believe me on this. Here, I'll show you the data. Just like I'll show you the data right here. Hybrid vehicles are better in the city than they are on the highway. And that's why I've always said from day one, if you do mostly highway driving, if most of your driving is 60, 50 miles per hour or higher, 80 kilometers or about 50 miles per hour or higher, if that's the majority of your driving, really do consider the EcoBoost, because the highway difference is very much minimal. So you're getting 37 miles per gallon, and I would suspect that an all-wheel drive Ford Maverick is going to get right around those numbers. Now, the Escape it has a bit more of a van look than a truck look. It's more, the cuts on it are sleeker. Now, the 2022, I found it a little too vanny for my liking. Just because I'm going to have a kid on the way doesn't mean I all of a sudden find vans attractive, because I still have taste. Having a child hasn't burnt. I guess when you eat food, your taste buds are on your tongue. And I don't know where the automotive taste buds are, but I have not lost my automotive taste buds. I still loathe vans with a passion, and I have not given up on life. I'm not depressed to the point where I'm willing to give up on life and buy a van or even consider a van. And I still pick on my coworkers who drive vans. Even if they're out in the mechanics bay, I'll put on safety goggles just to go give them a little rip on the van that they own. Encourages them to switch into something better. I'm here to help you. Speaking of being here to help, folks, please hit the thumbs up button. Help us out. We've done 2,000 videos, 2022 now to be precise. And in those 2020 videos, I can tell you we have averaged almost precisely $20 per video. So we're doing this because we love chatting with you. We love helping out. For me, it gives me a bit of purpose knowing that I'm helping people who are looking for automotive help in a world. Really, car buying is an automotive hell, and I want to be here to help people, pull people out of that automotive hell, save them thousands of dollars, and make sure they've got a good car enthusiast experience. And I love the community because we're always helping each other out, and Peugeot a lot of you send me messages and photos and help me add information into the show. So it's great that this is a community and that these shows are a team effort. Community effort.